Margot and Kathy, I have your attention. We're breathing. You're breathing. Nice big inhale together one more time. Just let it all fall away. Divine Spirit, source of all supply. Oh, we are blessed to be here together. We know that your breath breathes us. We get to experience, you get to experience life through us, through each and every one of us, because there is divine in everyone and in everything. Thank you, beloved, for this opportunity, for this connection, this moment that has never happened before and will never happen again. Oh, I call forth love and gratitude and forgiveness and wholeness and connectedness, and most of all, oneness. We are all here together because we are really only one. Thank you for this, beloved, for this and all of our blessings. We give thanks and trust completely and fully that all is unfolding in divine right order, whether we can see it or not. It is there. As we sit and observe and trust, we will get to know it. We give thanks for this, for each and every one here, and everyone who will ever hear this. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is.
So it is. Thank you, Catherine. So we're going to go ahead and we'll get started. Show you the rest of the room here. Rev D's on her way and asked if we'd like to get started with check-in and what are you grateful for? So we'll start in the room. Does anybody want to get started? Oh, hey, Jean. Would you like to get started?
What am I grateful for? Well, I'm very grateful for right now. What am I grateful for? I'm grateful for living in this beautiful place, Santa Cruz, and this lovely, wonderful community of people that I was able yesterday to get support and love.
Thank you. Kaylee?
I can't say how grateful I am for this class, because what I found is when a surprise came in the election, it didn't throw me for a loop at all. Because what I realized is what I am asking the universe for is oneness, and are recognizing that we're all in this together. And I think the answer to that prayer is what happened in the election, because there were huge swaths of my fellow country people who were crying out, "You're ignoring me, you're not listening to me, you're rejecting me, you think I'm stupid, you think I'm backwards, you want to get rid of me." And I wasn't listening to that cry. So this was a big attention getter, that I was the one who wasn't loving everybody. I was the one who was cutting people out. I was the one who was othering people who weren't like me. And I want to add one more thing. I've been hearing a lot lately around how comforting it is for all of us to be around like-minded people. And although that may be a comfort, I think we have to get out of that thinking, because it's a way of othering people who are not like-minded. So I think we have to be in love and offer love to all people and not limit ourselves to like-minded people.
Nice. Marguerite?
I want so much to just put a ditto with what you just shared, because it just resounded in my heart so much. That this class and then the Adventures of Living has been such a reawakening. It's not that I haven't heard the message before, but this time I'm hearing it with my whole self, and with the support of people that are so open and vulnerable. And I think that's one of the things, to be able to be vulnerable and say, you know, it's true. I haven't recognized the suffering that the people for the last 8 years have been having, and acknowledging that and feeling that. And I'm again so filled with gratitude for Rev Deborah and this class and the journey.
So that's 3 in the room so far. Anybody else want to go? Would you like to share?
I
I would like to thank Reverend Deborah for teaching me about praying and how you keep it up. And you just don't say your prayer once. You say it over and over and over again. Keep it going. And I have just been amazed since we learned this, and I've been doing it. Miracles are happening all around me. And I credit it to prayer. Knowing how to pray and knowing keep it going.
Good. Catherine, did you want to say something before we get going?
Just, I give thanks for most this amazing day.
Yes.
For the opportunity to be alive.
Amen.
For such a time as this.
For such a time as this. I can't see the names. So who's on there?
Okay, so we have Kath, Ika, Marilyn, Barbara, Ray, Elizabeth, Behave 55, Ade, Esperanza, and a couple on the phone.
Full house, huh?
760 area code and 408.
Yeah, that's me. Can you hear me? That's me. I'm Ruth.
Who is
Can
it?
you hear me? Ruth, R-U-T-H.
Ruth.
Right. From Southern California.
Okay, is it coming through your?
It's coming through here. That's what we got. Let me see if I can. I don't know if it'll do.
So everything's just coming through the little projector box.
Yeah, but we'll see if maybe this will change that.
Okay. Well, greetings and welcome. Full house, huh? Everybody just take a breath, huh? Let's just take a breath. So we open with an expression of gratitude. So grateful to be here for such a time as this, for the opportunities that are before us, for our chance to get into the gym, the spiritual gym, the workout session. You know, you can have the equipment and it just becomes a little ballet in the, like in the bedroom, and we're actually going to get on it.
Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
We're going to shed some pounds. We're going to build some muscle, and we're going to build some stamina.
Yes.
All of the above. So let me tell you about what this session is not. Okay? This session is not a complaint about what's going on. This session is not, oh, what happened? How did it happen? It's not. We will discuss some things that did happen, and I want to encourage you to have those discussions. It's not that they are not worthwhile discussions. That's just not this discussion. Okay. This discussion is a skills building session. This is where we're learning tools, we're learning framework, we're learning perspective, history, things that can help us to shift our narrative, our narrative and our paradigm. Narrative. Polybonics. There's got some merit in that. Narrative. I like that. But literally to shift it so that the starting place from the work that we're doing is different. And I'm trusting that those of you, some of you I can see are new, but I'm trusting for those of you who have been to at least 2 or 3 sessions, and especially those of you who've been doing this for a couple of months, can see some usefulness in the information that's been shared, in the difference in framing what's been going on, and to see that we really don't need to demonize or otherize the kind of division that we saw. It's systemic, and it didn't start with this election, and it's not going to end with this election, because it's kind of built into the system. It's built into the system not only today, but as we have been discussing, that it's never been a single America. It's just never been. It's always been this divided America where it tried to organize itself around like free and slave. It tried to organize itself around federal versus state. It's full of these checks and balances and things that are a lot of really based on fears and mistrusts. And the thing that I've been saying here, and a part of this, is that it's time for a new beginning. It's time for a new beginning. It's not just about like trying to fix the old, but it is about putting forth a new vision of the America that many of us say that we want to have, but is not the America that was founded. It's very important, because we have this idea sometimes that everything was founded equal, fair, and somehow we've gone awry, or we just haven't lived up to our highest values and principles. And that's really not the case. We have lived up to exactly what we have established. That's what we have lived up to. If you take, for example, Barack Obama, and you know, everybody knows him as the 44th president, everybody knows him as the first African-American president. But few people are really cognizant, and people knew that he was a senator before he was in the White House, but few people are cognizant of the fact that Barack Obama is only the third Black person since Reconstruction to be in the Senate. He is only the third person since the 1800s to be in the Senate. That is, yeah, exactly. That's how far off we are, and sort of how far we have to go. I contend that this is a great moment in history.
Yes.
And I don't want to see it squandered. I don't want to see it squandered in a bunch of backbiting and even more divisiveness. This kind of how did you vote has become the new dividing line. And I want everybody to rise above that. I really want you to rise above that. And the first thing that I want all of us to do is to listen, to have the courage to listen, to do not project. Do not project onto other people what their vote meant. People were voting for all kinds of reasons. And one of the things that I have noticed pretty, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, almost without exception, that those who voted blue were looking at all the things that Trump said and trying to hold him accountable for those things that he said, and trying to hold the red voters accountable for what Trump said, and are projecting onto the voters the values that they think that Trump was espousing.
Yes.
As though the people voting for Trump were voting for the things that he was saying. When in fact, I have found it's kind of the opposite. That people who were voting red were often voting in spite of what he said, in spite of his behavior, as though it were irrelevant. Now, that's another issue. I want you to catch what I'm saying here. And I think that's an issue worth exploring in terms of the future of why it is that saying racist stuff was irrelevant. You know, why was it that, you know, the bankruptcies and all these different things were not relevant? Because that starts to speak to some basic values. But that's very different than projecting onto people that they agree.
Mm-hmm.
Can you feel that?
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much that they have agreed, it's that there were other issues, and I don't mean this pun, but that trumped that. that there were other issues that were far more important. And pretty saliently, this was the big class divide. Those of you who have been with me a while, remember when we were talking about the Dred Scott decision and Jim Crow and how Jim Crow started? This idea of, after slavery, the disenfranchised white people whose lives are now devastated, and you have all of these free black people now, and what the hell does this mean? They can't read, they can't write. They're there. There's only so many goods. There's only so many resources. And what happens now? What happens now? And that the Jim Crow was just as much about the white people as it was about the black people. The Jim Crow was designed to keep the poor whites and the poor blacks from uniting, because if they united, it would change the power base. The laborers, the ones who had the skills, were black. The ones who actually could farm and could build and actually knew how to do the stuff were the black folks. They just didn't have any money. They didn't have any capital. But if somebody was, think about this, if somebody was going to farm, who do you think was going to be the more successful farmer? A slave with 40 acres who knew how to farm? Or a slave holder with 40 acres who never farmed a day in his life? Who's going to be more successful? Are you with me? So there was a whole movement to really disenfranchise, to split and to splinter. And the Jim Crow that the poor whites were served was, at least you're not black. That being white in and of itself gave you some kind of superiority, gave you some kind of privilege. And this whole slew into that, and we're still doing it. We're still doing it. It is as though the middle of the country was as devastated by the economic stuff as the South had been. The way the factories went, that they were just left economically devastated. And they're looking for a scapegoat. Somebody to blame. Why is this so? And a real sense of being left behind. And to be honest with you, I think they were. I really think they were. And I think that whether we know it or not, the environmentalists, for example, that demonize fossil fuel, and I'm not saying that we should use it, but this country was built on the back of coal miners. It was built on the backs of a lot of these industries that we are now demonizing and calling bad. And there's a way in which the environmentalists have run with the whole green movement, so to speak, without any regard to what that is doing to the economic imbalance for the other people. I could go on and on about any issue, whether it's marriage equality. It's the same kind of, there's a new way we want to go, and we really don't care about the impact that it has made on everybody else. When you do change, it is incumbent upon you to be a change agent. To be a change agent means you have to be an agent of the transformation. And that transformation has to include the people whose world you were turning upside down. That your plan forward has to have a place for them in the plan. Because if it does not have a place for them in the plan, then all you're going to get is this resistance, and then you're just trading kind of displacement for displacement. And I contend, just as the founding folks, as we have gone through painstakingly, had absolutely no intention of everybody in this nation being free. Absolutely no intention. That the people who were putting forth a progressive agenda, in many respects, have had no intention of really, really bringing along the people that it was disenfranchising. There's sometimes when we've gone part way, but only from the standpoint of our allies. If I were to use the marriage equality movement, for example, that any movement doesn't tilt, doesn't come forward until some of the people in the dominant position support it. Okay.
Right.
It took abolition to end slavery. You know, women couldn't give themselves the right to vote. Men had to do that. People with disabilities couldn't have signed the American Disabilities Act. You know, those were not gay judges who have been in all these courts, who have been, you know, doing the rulings and who have been in the legislatures. It isn't until there's a critical mass of people who are in the dominant position and dominant culture who kind of get it and become allies. But that work of building the allies is on the backs of the ones who want to make the change. These folks didn't just pop up as allies, and there's more ally building to be done. So if you were to take the marriage equality movement, for example, that after a while, gay folks kind of figured out that we weren't going to do it on our own. We couldn't do this on our own. And then it's what we call the low-hanging fruit. Okay? Remember I said the way the change happens is that it's like concentric circles. You have a critical mass in the center, and then you connect to the next ones who are most like you or whose ear you can have. So that little center gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until the ones who are on the most extreme are then the ones who are marginalized. It doesn't go from a critical mass in the center, revolutionary, pulling in the people from the furthest end into the middle. And those are the kinds of questions that I hear. I'll tell them, well, Reverend Deborah, how are we going to get, you know, the such and such people? And don't worry about them. That's not the problem. Your problem is, how do you keep having the meaningful conversations and bringing the next people in? So if we were to use that marriage equality, it wasn't, how do we get the homophobes? We didn't start off going after the church. Is, how can I get my sister to talk to mom? You know, how can I get access to my nieces and nephews and show them that there's no reason people to be afraid of having their kids around gay people? Okay. It wasn't until the families started stepping up and saying, this is my son, to the church. How dare you? I'm going to take my tithe and I'm going, how dare you tell me that he can't get married here? Or how dare you? But you get what I'm saying? It's like, that's when the tide turned. That's when the tide turns. But it's the low-hanging fruit. What we found in those early polls, and it continues to be true, that whenever somebody said that they changed their mind, it's because they had an encounter with somebody gay. It was the ones who said they didn't know anybody who were the most likely to be that way. So the message started to become, come out wherever you are. Really. Just like come out when those big votes were happening. It's like, you don't have to get in the streets or whatnot, but can you just have the courage to talk to your brother, call your neighbor, just let them know, and they're less likely to vote against you. They're more likely to come into that fold. Okay? But that's really deliberate work. I want you to hear what I'm saying. That's really deliberate work. When I think about the feminist movement, for example, that was work. Oh my God, that was work. Changing the status of women, that was bedroom by bedroom, job by job. That was not just some big amorphous something, because if I have more rights as a woman, and what it means to be a woman is redefined, guess what? That redefines what it means to be a man. And that's where the problem comes. It really isn't so much that people have a problem with you getting your rights, but what does that do about me? It really wasn't so much that these heterosexual people necessarily had all that problem with gay people and their relationships. We were getting into their neighborhood, and there goes the neighborhood. Marriage was their neighborhood. And it's like, you can't have my neighborhood. You can have your own neighborhood. They were all for separate but equal. You can have partnerships, domestic partnerships. You can have every kind of right that you want. Just don't call it a marriage. Because if you call it a marriage, that redefines the one that I have. And how dare you redefine my world? It's like that about everything. What it means to be white. I have certain privileges. And there's certain things I don't have to deal with. And I don't have to think about it. And how dare you come here and make me look at the fact that I'm white and look at racism? How dare you? I didn't give you that permission to change my world and to change my reality. Are you with me? There is a responsibility that we have to take. There's a responsibility. It's a negotiation, and it starts with listening. I mean, search your heart. How willing were you before the election to listen to a Trump supporter? I mean, I'm just saying, okay? I
didn't even want to know who they were.
Hey, there you go. That's honest. You didn't even want to know where they were. Okay? And guess what? They're thinking the same thing back. It's like, screw you. Let's just duke this out in the ballot box and see who can become a winner and just forget about you. I don't even want to know who you are. I don't even want to hear what you have to say. And if we really listen, we might learn something. We really, really might learn something. And by listening, really listening, that's what I learned. I learned the pain. I learned the displacement. I learned the anger. I learned the rage. When you've got that many people angry and rageful, you gotta say why. At least, I gotta give it credit, at least these people figured out, which they didn't figure out in Jim Crow, is that they were getting screwed by the same people. So they at least figured that out. That the establishment that's supposed to be here to support me and help me has been screwing me. So they at least figured that much out. Yes.
I have a question with regard to that. It seems that this was a vote against a branch of government, the executive, because the Congress is still dominantly Republican, and they were the ones for the last 8 years that have done nothing. So that, to me, is one of the
No, but they
nonsense.
masked it to look like
No, it wasn't about an office. It was about an agenda. It was about an agenda. This was a culture war.
But they elected all these people in the House of Representatives that are the same people that were there. And that had.
But this is what I'm saying, is that although the rhetoric of Trump was this idea of like a new machinery, okay, that's a bunch of crap. I mean, because it is what it is. And it's like you're not going to get a new machinery. The best you can get is a new perspective. Is a new perspective. And these folks thought and really felt and still feel like they were being sold down the river. Like it or not, that having a black person as president was just offensive. I mean, against the worst and most raw sensibilities.
What's the core of that? You know, why do people, it's the misogyny, the hatred of Barack Obama, the hatred of Hillary Clinton is just, to me, the hardest things to understand.
But if you take off the people, it's not hard to understand. The people are they're just representatives of it. The hatred, quote unquote, of Hillary Clinton, the biggest gap, the biggest divide was women. The gap, the class gap between the educated and the uneducated, college-educated white women was bigger than the gender gap. We want to think of it as just like misogyny, like somehow or another, like men are against the women. But there was a gap in terms of the realities. There was a gap in terms of the realities and a sense of privilege. It's like you've already done it. You've already been in it. You've already had all this other stuff. It's like you're the most qualified, but overly qualified. It's like it's too much. It's not hearing the cry, the sense of being out of touch.
I don't understand that because Hillary, at least in terms of her record, took so much from women and children.
You're missing it. You're not hearing what I'm saying. I'm talking about a culture gap. A culture gap. A socio-demographic profile of rural, less urban. What I'm saying is that it's not new, that this divide has been systemic in our nation forever. It is as basic as slave states, free states. It is as basic as that. It is as basic and as raw as that. When you say, who were the people? What was the profile? What was their value system? What was their value system, their religious values, their family values, and all the rest of that? They are not cosmopolitan. They are not diversity pluralistic. They are not, that's not what's happening, okay? And I'm not saying we gotta like it. What I am saying is that it's half the nation. And until we just accept that, it's not new. This hairpin, it's been a hairpin every election for I don't know how many years. Recalls and taking it to the Supreme Court. It's been this hairline, and all we've done is this ping pong back and forth. Who can get that 51%? And all I'm saying is that we got to get over this. We have to get over this Okay, now can the blue take it back over again? And can we just be obstructionists to the red?
No.
No, you can play that game, but that's not the class I'm giving here. There has to be something in the heart that wants to stop othering. Stop othering. Just stop othering. People. Back to issues. Because a lot of the people who voted on the other side of what you voted for actually share your values on the most critical issues.
Well, that's what I find, I mean, hopeful about the results of this election, because it seems like it's going to take this much extreme institutional othering for the people to come together and say no.
Yes,
No.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly, because you can't heal what you don't feel. We have been in denial. We have been in deep denial. And for the first time, I've lived here for 26 years. And for the first time, I feel like this little bitty county here, Santa Cruz, is willing, and it's different. It's like we've known we were weird. You know, keep Santa Cruz weird, and knew we were different. But there's a different level of understanding of the bubble. There's a really different level of understanding how we are not only not representative, but out of touch. See, it's one thing to say, I have my little Shangri-La here, but I know it's my little Shangri-La. I know what's going on over here and over here, over here, but I'm creating a little bubble here. But this way of projecting like the values of this little bubble onto where sort of like everybody is. And I'm not saying we've got to change our values. All I'm saying is that we have work to do. We have real work to do if we want to get anywhere near oneness. And the only way we're going to do there is we have to drop the swords. We have to drop the swords.
Rev D?
Yes.
I'm so with you about that not othering. I just am wanting to know how to deal with the physiological panic that comes with noticing the increase in hate acts and hate crimes. And I know that they have been continuing anyway before this. I'm just concerned in that, and maybe I'm coming in a different place you don't want to talk about, but.
No, it's not any different. The hate crimes didn't start with this election, and the hate crimes aren't going to end with this election. And the hate crimes aren't going to stop until the people in the dominant culture check each other on it. That's when it changes. That's when it changes. When the people in the dominant position, whatever that is, are willing to give that up and actually become the ally of and speak up for. That's when it shifts. It's going to take U.S. citizens to come forth and say, we're not having it. We're not having mass deportation of our neighbors, our family members. You were married. We're not having it. I was at a meeting about this last night. If I had my way, if I had the time, honestly, I would do a mass rally. I would do a mass rally right here in Santa Cruz. Is it going to reach the White House? No, probably not. Would it make a whole bunch of news? Probably not. But the undocumented workers in this county are scared. And they're scared of all of us. And they need to see a show of solidarity. That says, we see you, we love you, and we ain't having it. We are not going to sell you down the river.
And I guess be very careful about the fact that he's saying, we're going to deport, we're not going to do people who have criminal records.
That's already happening.
It's been happening, but to be very careful that we need to be united against that as well.
Yes.
And it's everybody, everybody.
Oh, all of it.
When he said last night, it's like, we are going to either deport them or incarcerate them. Oh, and there's your new slave labor.
Of course. But everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I shouldn't say everybody knows that, but the prison system is getting geared up now for immigration and immigrants to be the new population.
Yes.
You only got so many black people. You already got us.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really serious. You can't lock up more of us. So that's the new thing. And immigration now is under homeland security. Okay? So we have made immigration now, not just immigration as it used to be, now it's tied to security and terrorism, which gives the feds then to have different say-so and whatnot in this. But the bottom line, Kath, you know, to your question here is I hope that you're hearing what I'm saying, because we don't have time to go through like every single issue. But it is what has to happen here is for the people who are in the position of privilege to say no. I was glad to see that, for example, when the stuff started coming out about the sexual assaults, and it was being categorized as just locker room talk. And everything was going to the women. And, you know, when the women are offended and the women are hurt and whatnot. But it was only until the men started speaking up. And the men started saying, oh, don't put that on men. I don't know what locker room you're talking about. But this is not okay. And this is not acceptable. Now, I have a little girl, and like, no. When men start holding men accountable for how they treat women, rape will stop, baby. Domestic violence will stop. When men start holding men accountable for how men treat women and children. That's when the change will happen. But it means abdicating some of that privilege of being a man. Because the moment that you become an ally for women, the moment you become an ally for anything, you lose your privilege and start getting treated like now. That's the price that you get paid for being an ally. And a lot of people are not allies, not because they don't want to be. We misread into that and think they're all bigots. They're afraid. They're afraid of losing their privilege because what's the word I'm looking for? That machinery that keeps the oppressed in place also keeps the oppressors in place. So if you are an ally, you get the cross burned on your lawn too. Your car gets blown up. You get afraid for your children too. That's what keeps people in line, is the terror of losing that privilege and also being the target. So now is the time, more than anything, to listen. And if you can't listen, at least just don't distance. I hear it all the time now, you know, Rev, I don't know. I can't even talk to my brother now. You know, I can't even talk to my mother now. I can't even, you know, I can't even call home. I don't even want to go home for Thanksgiving. Or the suspicion. I'm not really sure, you know, but I think my next door neighbor, I can't even look at them now. You know what I'm talking about? That's the first place in your heart. In your heart. Where? In your heart. that othering has to stop.
Isn't the word here compassion and understanding? But then out of compassion and understanding, we still have to stand up for what we believe in and for the people that are being impacted by this. So that's the challenge.
But that you can't do it without the heart. Okay? I have been saying every week, twice a week, 3 times a week, if you want to include the pulpit and all the other stuff, take a stand, have a vision, speak your vision. Quit talking about Trump.
Amen.
Quit talking about Trump. If you don't like what he's saying or whatnot, then talk about the issues. Talk about whatever it is that you are actually concerned about and start shifting the energy that way. We cannot keep feeding the beast. We're feeding the beast. We got to stop. What is your value? What is your stand? Okay? If you don't want to see people deported, what do you want to see? Could you tell somebody that? If you don't want to see Roe v. Wade go down, then what do you want to see? You don't want to see marriage equality go down, then what do you want to see? You don't want to see Planned Parenthood defunded, then what do you want to see? That's all I'm trying to get us to do. Find your voice. Speak your truth. Your truth. Not complaining about their truth. Your truth. Your truth. And I want to say one more thing before I open it up. And that is this idea of whether you're preaching to the choir or who you talk to, who don't you talk to. Here's what happens in organizing. There is such a thing called autonomous organizing. And it's often misunderstood. So if you're in a corporate environment, for example, you might get, well, why do you have to have the black group? You know, doesn't that just make it divisive? Why do you have to have the women's group? You know, doesn't that make it divisive? And the answer is no. And here's why the answer is no. That in order to engage, you have to have a platform, you have to have a strategy. Okay? This is autonomous organizing to a certain extent. It's like the like-minded people have to get together and say what our strategy is going to be. And that's what I've been doing. I've been putting forth, what's a strategy here? Let's get educated. Let's learn something about our history and our culture and like where people are coming from. Let's flip this switch now. Let's quit talking about the marginalized and let's talk about the supremacy. Let's talk about what it means to stand in our privilege. Let's talk about what it means to think about the authority upon which we stand to do this work. You know, flipping the conversation. Are you with me? Okay. But we had to do this in preparation. You probably wouldn't have been able to listen and to have those conversations with people who voted red if you hadn't had this first. So it's for the purpose. The purpose of this was not for the exclusion, but to build the infrastructure for the inclusion. So it's okay. It's okay to do some of that like-minded thing because that's going to be necessary. Women had to come together and figure it out. Black folks had to come together. Gay people been coming together. It's like every, immigrant groups, everybody's coming, Muslims are coming together to kind of figure out what they need to do in order to engage. We don't have to demonize that. We do. When we see that, why are they over there? What are they up to? And aren't they just being separatists? And isn't that going against it? They say they're for integration, but they're over there in their own group. It's purposeful. Just don't spend all your time preaching to the choir. Okay? All right. I had to say that. So I know there are loads of questions. Yes.
I definitely have a question. I've been wondering about this, a world that works for everyone. Okay, so I have a vision of a world that works for everyone in my mind, and then I talk to somebody else who has a vision of a world that works for everyone according to that person, and so on and so on. And everybody I talk to has got a different vision of a world that works for everyone. How do we do this? How do we coalesce?
You don't need you don't need to have the same outcome. If you were to go through the LGBT community and you were to ask, what is equality and how will you know that you have it, you're going to get some really different answers. You're going to get some really different answers. If you go to the Black community and you ask, what is Black empowerment? And what does it mean to have a thriving Black community? You're going to get a lot of different answers. The issue is not about, are we all going to come up with the exact same answer? The issue is, can we keep engaging and moving towards a certain direction? No one person has the answer. Everything is really about intent. It's about intent. If you have the question about, well, what is it going to take to have a ecologically sustainable planet? You're going to get umpteen different answers about what kind of fuels and how are we going to do this or whatnot. Don't get stuck there. Think of it like this, the magic and the engagement. Oh, that's your vision? Wow, tell me more. Hey, well, here's my vision. Maybe it might even be something else. It's engaging in the sense of the possibilities of even having the vision.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
That's what it's about. On the my Zoom folks and people on the line. Barbara? Is that Barbara?
Yeah. Unmute yourself, Barbara.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I wanted to say from the beginning how inspired and elated and excited I feel. I see people out of their apathy. And finally, truth is being exposed, and all this separation, and people are rallying together, and there are conversations, and there are already movements for political reform and for coming together and for unity and for love and compassion and being of service and looking at needs that aren't being met. And all of this is up in a really big way right now. And honestly, I'm not sure that this would have happened if Hillary were elected.
It wouldn't.
No.
So I have to say that I am so extremely grateful for the Most High and for divine intelligence, divine order, divine wisdom, and how God doesn't need our cooperation. and thank God for that, because in every circumstance that we don't want, there is a call for upping our spiritual qualities and being more fully who we are and how the world is supposed to be. So it's hard for me to actually say I'm so glad that Trump was elected. I kind of choke on that one a little bit. But honestly, I think this is exactly what needs to happen right now. And I am so grateful. And I am also so grateful to you, Rev D, because you have prepared us for this. And you are putting this out to the world, not just to us. This is going viral. This is all over the place. And people are listening now. And I also want to say that I'm especially grateful, and I don't want to sound cold or anything like that, but I'm especially grateful that white people are waking up.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen this since I was 14, and I was in a relationship for 18 years with a black man from Jamaica, Rastafarian, social justice reggae singer, and learned all about this. And had that not been my experience, I knew about social injustice and civil rights and all of that from way back in the day, but to really see it. And I'm so grateful that white people are rallying and seeing it too. So I think I agree this is a wonderful, exciting time for all of us to really come together and have some positive social change in the world. And that's what I want to say.
Good. So I'm going to push you a little bit. Breathe. Here's what it looks like. That low-hanging fruit, those people to have the conversation with in terms of organizing, those ones that you have the ear to and actually might agree with you on some stuff, some of them voted red.
For sure.
Okay? But here's the thing. They know you voted blue. But they don't know if you know they voted red. Okay? So these ones that are kind of in the middle, not the extreme, but the ones who are in the middle, they're hiding. And they are in fear. And they're in fear of all of us. They are in fear of our wrath and our judgment and losing our connections and our friendships and our love. Just let that soak in.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday who's like 30 years younger than me, 35 actually, and she confessed to how she voted, and she was so afraid to tell me.
Yes.
And she said why she was afraid. She's got to reject her, and that and there. And you got it right on.
Exactly.
Right on.
Okay.
I had a friend on Facebook. It's funny because all of a sudden a lot of friends on Facebook, now that the red side won, are all of a sudden coming out saying they voted red. You know, like they were not going to say anything before, but now that he's won, all of a sudden they're coming out. And so I've made a couple comments with stuff that you've taught us, like not necessarily negative, but kind of questioning, like really. And one of them said her piece about her, what's gone on for her the last 8 years and things like that. And then she ended by saying, I hope you still love me, Leah, because I love you. And I responded, I said, of course I love you. Love is the only thing that's going to get us through this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so here's where I'm asking you to breathe. I'm asking you to be proactive. I want you to be proactive. even if in a situation like that, you know, I don't personally do my Facebook. Everybody else does my stuff for me. But so I'm not sure if it would exactly work like this. But if you put something on your Facebook that said, look, whether you voted red or blue, you're still my friend and I love you.
Yeah.
That's what I said to my friend.
People are doing that a lot on Facebook right now.
But proactive.
Yeah.
Listen to what I'm saying. Proactively.
Yeah.
And particularly in those relationships that you know are going to be tense.
Mm-hmm.
That you know are going to be tense. For you to be the first one to say, you know what? This has been a really, really divisive election. And it has torn people apart. And I don't want it to tear us apart. You know, I don't know how you voted. You know, you probably know I voted blue. I don't know how you voted. And I'm not asking you to divulge how you voted. You know, however, if you ever care, you know, to share that or to talk about, you know, some of the things that have been going on for you, or, you know, what was happening, you know that you have a listening ear. Know that I'm your friend, or I'm your sister, or like whatever that is. That's the next step. That's the step. Okay? People lie when they don't feel safe. People hide when they don't feel safe. And we don't need more hiding. We need engagement. We need engagement. And to give your friends and your relatives permission to not have to walk on eggshells around you.
So my mind gets it. Your heart says no. Because you can't, what it feels like, the part that feels like is hurting is the part that's can't put a gun up to my head and tell me you love me. Mm-hmm. I can say I love you, and I can see your separation, your sense of separation, and the true, what feels true.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like being euthanized. I'm putting you out because I love you.
I can appreciate that. And I'm not asking anybody to go into territory that they can't go into or don't want to go into. This is a oneness. And how do we get to oneness with people who have hurt us, betrayed us? This is the Jesus on the cross moment of the forgive them for they know not what they do. Okay? And this do very specifically is not the action of the activity taking place, but it is the end result, that thing that is set into motion as a result of it. There's like to build, and then there's the building. It's like if I were to say, what have you done? I'm not just asking you, and this is kind of where it is now. We're saying to people, do you realize what you've done? We're not asking them really, do you realize you voted for this person? But do you realize what you've done? What has been set into motion here? Okay? And the answer is no. Okay? And I think people are going to be really, really shocked. Not just the impact on the blue folks, but the impact on the red folks. I don't think they have any idea of what they've done to themselves.
No, God.
Or the nation, or anything else.
The world.
But what I do know is that there is a difference between being a victim and being victimized. There's a difference between being a victim and being victimized.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Okay, and We may be victimized sometimes, but we get to choose whether we carry the identity of a victim.
Amen.
And it is that identity of a victim that keeps them in power over you.
Sorry.
We're losing our Zoom, folks.
Nope.
Okay.
Sounding like my computers.
Does that make sense? Okay. And you get to choose. Everybody gets to choose. You get to choose how mad you're going to be. You get to choose how mad you're going to stay. You get to choose all of it. Okay? But there is something in the love your enemy. I think about those people who, and you know what? I'm not saying we're angels, but African Americans are far more likely to forgive. When I think about those family members in that church in Charlotte,
Yes.
you know, I mean, the man was up there in the prayer thing with them for an hour and just gunned them down. And they said, I forgive you. Yeah. And the reason why, it doesn't eradicate what's done, but it shifts your relationship to it. And until you're willing to forgive, it's bigger than you. It's bigger than you. And that forgiveness allows you to get back in your power. Get back in the game. So you may have knocked me out and whatnot, and you may have the gun, but hey, I'm going to take away the bullets. I'm going to take away everybody else. You may have that gun, but I'm going to make sure there aren't any more. Or like whatever it is that I have to do to de-escalate this situation, but I can only do that from a position of power. Ade?
I just want to say that's the first thing I want to say. I want to say that I'm grateful for truth. And I can say that I really know that powerful statement that says the truth will set you free. I so get it more than ever before. I think of this divisiveness that we're going through and things that we're recognizing about friends and neighbors and family members. And it's interesting because somehow it seems like there's a part of us that thinks, oh, the people who have voted against what we stand for, it just happened last week. Yeah. But this is something that's been there. We just have an opportunity to really see. We say our intention is oneness. Our intention is healing. And we're saying, why is the world the way it is? We've been given an opportunity to see why it is, to understand. And oftentimes I find that when the Trump, quote unquote, Trump supporters that have been spoken of, they're spoken of as bad people. But these are people that we work with. Some of them are pilots that flies the plane we're traveling. Some of them are doctors. We're doctors. We hang around each other. So really we have an opportunity to really meet each other on a heart-to-heart, mind-to-mind basis. And, you know, I tell people it's not that we should feel what we feel, but be aware that we all want the best for our family members.
Yes.
And so it's an opportunity for, I mean, hatred and all the isms comes from somewhere. It's taught, is learned, and we're bombarded with that on the news, and we pick it up. And I'm going to share this. I've shared it with some friends, and this is the first time I'm going to share this publicly. It just popped in my head. Oof. Okay. Now, of course, I'm black, and I have a passion for black people. I get angry when I see black people being mistreated. But I can raise my hand and say sometimes, maybe not so much now, but I've gone through a phase where I see a group of young black boys walking towards me, and I start to think, okay, well, let me be on guard now. Let me be on guard. But if I see a group of young white boys, there could be 50 of them. I'm not even thinking about that. And what I had to do was really think, what's that about? but it's all information that I've taken in without even knowing it. There's a drive-by and I see a picture of a brother that looks like me. That goes into my consciousness. It becomes a program. So when I see a group of young black boys, I kick into that, forgetting that they look like me. And all of us have what you've shared with us, Rev D, this unexamined assumptions. This is wrong. We have biases and prejudices. It's all coming up. We're not better than the people who vote for Trump, and we're not better, we're not less. I mean, and it's not just about this election for me. It is about human consciousness.
Yes.
It is about us growing together, and really, this is where the rubber of truth meets the road of our consciousness.
Yes.
And the question is, where you going to go now?
Yep.
That's it.
It's true. It's true. You know, and I just really want you to hear me. Do not project onto everybody who voted red all of Trump's stuff. Mm-hmm. You're punishing them for what he did, or like what he said. And you may not have liked the fact that they voted for him. I get it. You know, if I could have had it go the other way, I would have gone, you know, the other way, obviously. And let me give you an example. Everybody who goes to Catholic church doesn't buy into the Catholic platform. Everybody that goes to Catholic church isn't busy following everything the Pope has to say. They're fornicating and having adultery and getting divorced and using birth control and you know, and like whatever else all the other people are doing in all the other churches. Okay, but they're Catholic. They're Catholic, and it doesn't mean they're less Catholic because they're not following all the Catholic doctrine. If I had $1 million, I would put $1 million on the fact that not every woman, let alone man, that voted red wants to see Roe v. Wade overturned. I put $1 million on that. Are you with me? I put the same million. That not all of them want to see marriage equality overturned.
See what?
Marriage equality overturned. Or want to see all the undocumented people deported. Don't project all that onto your friends and your family. You don't know that. It's your fear, but you don't know that. Okay? And I would say, and this is where it gets tough, is that until you're willing to really have that conversation with them, give them the benefit of the doubt that they are the same person you thought that they were before last Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Marguerite.
The challenge that I'm having the other, the talking to Ben, but the challenge has been more with blue voters who can't let go in terms of wanting to help them understand this perspective we're talking about. And it's whether or not it's so hard to just listen to them talk and demonize, you know.
Well, you don't have to listen. It's not about red or blue. You know, you're a minister. Jesus said it all. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Maybe they'll be a Jew, maybe they won't. Maybe the Jews will hear, maybe they won't. But it's not up to you to change anybody. It's not up to you to figure out who needs to be doing what. It's up to you to find a voice. It's up to you to make a deposit in the ethers, to put ideas out there, to put heart energy, space of reconciliation out there. It's yours to just throw it out there and let it land wherever it lands. You have no idea the friends that are going to be developed. You have no idea who you're going to reach. You can't always reach the one that you want to reach, but you'll reach somebody else with the willingness. You can't predetermine, and don't judge people for where they are. The other piece of this is that we're calling it anger, and even with the folks that voted red, I have to go back to what, clarify what I was saying about that too. A lot of it's grief. One of the ways that people grieve is through anger. And all that sense of loss and loss and loss and loss creates grief. And when you don't know how to grieve, there's all things, some people get apathetic. So some of the people who chose not to vote, they were in grief. They were in grief. Grief about not having Bernie, or grief, or grief that these were the people and this was their good time, and and that's all been taken away and they don't want to be part of the machinery. Okay, that's how some people grieve. Some people burn the place off. That's how they grieve. There's some people who get into rage. That's how they're going to grieve. Right now, it's grief. Okay, so just let it rock and roll for a while. It's too soon for a lot of people to turn or to change or whatever. I'd say give it to the end of the year, because now is the season of grief, period. Okay, so even if there wasn't an election, people would be in grief anyway. So just cut folks some slack.
I just want to say I'm leaving Friday and I will be back till January.
Okay.
I'm in Florida. And,
fun.
But I see this as an opportunity now in terms of what I'm being called to do here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Fun. Kaylee, and then we're going to be wrapping it up.
At the end of the sermon yesterday, you said it's time to put our swords down, which I agree with 100%. And it's so easy to look at people whose sword is anger and guns and violence. Why don't they put their sword down? Mine is disdain and superiority and calling people stupid that I don't even know. But if one of us, any of us, would just put the sword down, I literally think it's turn the other cheek, finally. For once, don't just hit back. Just turn the other cheek. And we used to declare ourselves that are like pioneers of possibility. I think that's exactly what we're doing here. Possibility that maybe for once we put the damn sword down and just stop. Stop it.
Yes.
Because in order to create something new, we got to stop the shit we're doing.
Yes. Turn the sword into plowshares.
Yes.
Plowshare, till the soil, cultivate the consciousness for a new day and a new era.
Yes.
Ade says, honesty is the first step towards recovery in your deepest intent. Rev D is a great read to see the deeper issues of what we're going through.
Amen.
I was going to talk about it, but we didn't. I will pass this out. It's about the Electoral College. Okay, and I feel very deeply and I feel very passionate about this, and I do think that there's a moment that's happening right now that I don't want to see it go. This is a handout that's actually from Bill Moyers, and I think it makes the Electoral College easy to understand. So and what's going on. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that when you talk about isms and the things that oppress and get us stuck, they have two components. There's an attitude component, and then there's a structural component. And I always like to work at change at the most systemic level, like down at the roots. And I really, thank you, and I really, 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 really believe that the Electoral College, besides being antiquated and all the stuff that it does politically, that it creates the divisiveness.
Definitely.
That it's like before the election even starts, it's already this mold that we have to get into, and we don't need the mold. We don't need that. Okay, it's billmoyer.com, or if you just Google Bill Moyer and Electoral College, you know, it'll pop right up, and you can, you know, have it on your screen if you don't
And
want
if
to.
you're on the email list, I also emailed it out this morning.
You know, a link.
So what are we going to do about continuing or not continuing?
I think we need to continue. I'm going to be spending the day with my daughter next Monday in Los Angeles, so I won't be able to be here. But I'm more than happy to pick up the following Monday.
Excellent.
If you know, we would like to do that. Yeah, I'm even willing. I know we've been doing it on Mondays, but considering the fact that it is so close to the holidays and everything else, I am willing to do a session on Wednesday, like that Wednesday right before Thanksgiving. If people, but it would be, I would be on Zoom. I would do it from where I am. I just feel like, you know,
That'd be great.
before you go into Thanksgiving, people might want a little more reinforcement. Are there people who would be available, who would do that if it was available that Wednesday?
Yes.
Yes?
Barbara says yes. Rafe says yes. Day says
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
for
you can still
Wednesday.
come here and you can still do Zoom. Yes.
Rev D,
Yeah.
just to let folks know, I am also holding a space. It's advertised as a safe space to heal from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. every morning via the Zoom platform between now and the morning of the inauguration. And it really is just a safe place to come, express, be witnessed, be held in love, and be held in prayer. Nobody's telling you how to do anything different. It's just a place for folks to be authentic and be safe.
Where is this, Ray?
I'm doing it via Zoom. I put the link in the chat, so it's there. And on Facebook, I post an event notice every day, so it's open to the public. Just come hang out if you want.
What's the time?
6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
I want to say thank you for the leadership and creating that space. Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Okay. So as we end this, there's the attitudinal part, and then there's the structural part. And I've been really thinking, and I honestly believe that one of the best things that we could do to try to help this deep divisiveness is working on getting rid of the Electoral College. And I chose this particular version of it. Oh, I don't have it. It's that particular version because in it there are links. In it there are organizations and platforms and groups that are already working towards that. So it's not starting, you know, like from the beginning, but I think that there's a swelling critical mass. He was one of the first ones to, anyway, I didn't get into that.
That was his deal last night. He thinks it needs to go.
It does need to go. Okay, it needs to go. So that and what I would like us to talk about next time go round is what kinds of platforms and forums do we want to do that can once again start moving this stuff forward. I kind of put my toe in it a little bit yesterday when I invited the Vietnam vets up. And it really, really, really meant, you know, a lot to them. And there was one guy afterwards who I wasn't sure where he was coming from at first, because he said, I wanted to talk to them. I was a draft dodger. I burned up my card. I tore up my card, and was like, where's this going? And he wanted to acknowledge them and to say thank you to them for going when he didn't. And I had him have the conversations afterwards. I didn't eavesdrop, but wow. Wow. And there are all of these places within us and experiences and whatnot. I think we just need to open up the floodgate and create the space. So if you're with me, we will do it. And I'm putting that out there now to say, be thinking of ideas. Be thinking of ideas and things that you might want to see happen. Ideas, subjects. I've got a lot of them, but I also want to hear from everybody else as well. Okay? All right.
I have one question. Somebody said the Electoral College, or maybe it was even here, but that they actually will be doing the election of the president in December.
Yeah.
And that
It's in that.
And they might, I mean, is there a possibility they would change?
Yes.
With Hillary?
It's always a possibility. But whether it would or not, I don't know. And I don't know what good it would do, really, because if it goes down below either of them having 270, then it goes to the House of Representatives to decide. And you're going to get the same result because the House is red.
Yeah.
You know, so it doesn't,
Nice big civic house.
you know, I mean, it really is not going to get you a lot.
There's one other thing going around about the Electoral College that has a safe provision for if a president-elect is not, qualified, that the Electoral College can appoint someone else. So in this case, it would be Republican, but I don't know if that can happen, but that petition is going around. There's a safeguard within the Electoral College.
That's changing the rules after the results.
Yeah.
All I can
And
say,
that would not be good.
yeah,
You think it's fast now?
all I can say is that our best hope for change is a peaceful transition of power.
Absolutely.
If we make this a bloodbath,
Absolutely.
and I am talking literal bloodbath, these folks are armed. I am telling you, I am talking militia, armed. And if we try to make that happen, this moment that I'm talking about now that we have here, it'll be gone. This place will be on lockdown or martial law like you have never seen. This moment will go.
Yeah, we try to take that away from them.
And remember what I said the last time. You lose all moral authority with people who can feel your contempt.
Absolutely.
You lose all moral authority. So lose the contempt. We got work to do. And I will make myself available via Zoom next Wednesday. Yeah, it'll be the same time at noon. Let's sing out. I appreciate all of the donations, and I want to tell you, I really appreciate this community. And all of you who showed up on Wednesday night, that as a whole, we're not spinning out.
No.
As a whole, we're not spinning out. And the kind of like turnaround and understanding the opportunity, I am so grateful for such a time as this and what all of you have been putting into it. So give yourselves a little applause. And we're going to give ourselves permission. I give myself